precisely 6:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Romesh Piris, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. India assures continued support to Sri Lanka. The COPE decides to hold a special meeting to look into the power generation, procurement, distribution and projects of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Negotiations to increase employment opportunities for Sri Lankans in Romania. The Minister of Tourism assures that Sri Lanka is safe for tourists to visit. The Indian court reduces sentence imposed on two accused conspiring to carry out attacks in Sri Lanka by reviving LTTE. The DCS data reveals average household income makes shocking revelations about the poverty level. A 10-hour water cut in many areas of Colombo over the weekend. And in world news, Kyiv to receive EU candidacy status. And in sports news, Dialogue Schools Rugby League kicks off today. Now the local news in detail. The Secretary to the Ministry of External Affairs of India, Vinay Quatra, today assured India's continued support as a close neighbour to overcome the present crisis. The visiting Foreign Secretary called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the President's house today. A special Indian delegation arrived in Sri Lanka this morning to assess further financial assistance. The President's media division said Sri Lanka has thus far received essential food items, fuel, medicines and fertilizer through Indian loan assistance. The delegation informed the President that the Government of India and political authorities are committed to continuing support to Sri Lanka. President Rajapaksa, meanwhile, expressed his appreciation to the Indian government for continued support during this difficult period. The Committee on Public Enterprises has decided to meet separately to hold a special meeting in near future to look into the power generation, procurement, distribution and projects of the Ceylon Electricity Board. This decision was arrived at when COPE met on Tuesday under the chairmanship of Professor Charita Herath to look into the Auditor General's reports for the years 2017 and 2018 and the current performance of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Earlier, on June 10th, CEB officials were summoned to COPE to discuss the matter, but due to time limitations on the said date, several issues were not taken up for discussion. Hence, they requested the COPE chairman to inform the Parliament and the Speaker to appoint a select committee to look into all matters including the generation plan. The COPE chairman pointed out that the committee could hold a special meeting to look into this matter. The Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manusha Nanayakkara, has met with Romanian Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Victor Choajdean, at the Ministry of Foreign Employment to discuss new employment opportunities in Romania for Sri Lankans. There was a lengthy exchange of views on the provision of employment opportunities to Sri Lankan workers in Romania, and the Romanian ambassador said that Romania had opened 100,000 foreign jobs earlier this year. The ambassador said that Romania has opened up jobs in the construction, IT and tourism sectors. About 2,500 Sri Lankan workers are currently employed in Romania. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing local news. The Minister of Tourism and Lands, Harun Fernando, assured that Sri Lanka is safe for tourists to visit. Speaking to travel agents in France, the minister said that Sri Lanka is swiftly addressing all issues of concern with the assistance of its friends in the international community. A meeting between Fernando and the travel agents of France was organized by the Embassy of Sri Lanka in Paris in collaboration with the Sri Lankan Airlines at the embassy premises to promote Sri Lanka tourism in France. Minister Fernando said that Sri Lanka is swiftly addressing all issues of concern with the assistance of his friends in the international community and asked the visitors to have confidence in the people of Sri Lanka, who would be pleased to see the solidarity of the French people at this juncture. The Madurai bench of the Madras High Court has reduced the sentence imposed by a trial court on two Sri Lankan nationals alleged to have conspired to carry out attacks in Sri Lanka by reviving the LTTE. According to the Hindu, the Council of the Appellants have submitted an undertaking to the court that they would leave India and not be involved in law and order issues. The court was hearing a criminal appeal filed in 2018 by Krishna Kumar Rajendran and Subhaskaran seeking a modification of the sentence imposed by the Principal District and Sessions Court in Ramadhapuram. The Q Branch Police booked them under Unlawful Activities Act, Passport Act and Foreigners Act. With that, we conclude the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
According to Department of Census and Statistics data, Sri Lanka's average monthly household income was estimated at 76,414 rupees prior to the country's economy fell deep into a recession and incomes deteriorated in the 2 years of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. While the average household income was over 75,000 rupees and appeared attractive, this reflects the income for an average household comprising 3 or 7 people, and there are also vast disparities between the 3 segments, urban, rural and estate. The survey also found out that the poorest 20% of the households in Sri Lanka were generating only 17,572 rupees, while the poorest 40% of the households generating 26,931 rupees. That was our main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Taking a look at Watchlight, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board announced that a 10-hour water cut in several areas in Colombo on Saturday the 25th from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. on Sunday the 26th due to essential maintenance work to the main water supply network. As such, water supply to Atulkote, Pitakote, Beddagana, Mirihana, Madivela, Talapatpitiya, Udahamulla, Ambuldeniya, Nugegoda, Pagoda, Vijayarama Junction up to 7th Mile Post Junction in High Level Road and all connected by roads from Nugegoda Junction up to Open University in Navala and all connected by roads will be interrupted. The NWSDB advises consumers to fill their water tanks and expresses regret for the inconvenience caused. It also requests people to use water sparingly. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to the world news. Taking a look at the headlines of the world news. Kyiv to receive EU candidacy status. Myanmar ex-leader sent to solitary confinement. Afghanistan earthquake survivors dig by hand as aid is delayed. Now the world news in detail. Ukraine is said to be approved as an EU candidate at the Brussels summit today after the European Commission gave the green light. Ukraine applied days after the Russian invasion in February, and the process has since moved at a record speed. Candidate status is the first official step towards EU membership, and France said this week there was total consensus on Ukraine. But it can take many years to join, and there's no guarantee of success. Myanmar deposed pre-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been moved from house arrest to solitary confinement in a prison in the capital of Naypyidaw. The 77-year-old Nobel laureate was arrested when the military ousted her elected government in February 2021. For the past year, she has been held at an undisclosed location in the capital. Ms. Suu Kyi has already been sentenced to 11 years in jail and faces a host of other charges. She denies all of the accusations against her. It's thought she will attend trial hearings from a special court set up inside prison. Afghan authorities are struggling to reach a remote area hit by an earthquake that killed at least 1,000 people as poor communications and a lack of proper roads hampered their efforts. Survivors dug by hand through villages reduced to rubble by a magnitude of 5.9 earthquake that struck early on Wednesday about 160 kilometers southeast of Kabul in arid mountains dotted with small settlements near the border with Pakistan. The quake was Afghanistan's deadliest in 20 years, and officials said the toll could rise. An estimated 1,500 others were reported injured. With that, we conclude the world news. Prior to concluding the headlines of the world news once again, Kyiv to receive EU candidacy status. Myanmar ex-leader sent to solitary confinement. Afghanistan earthquake survivors dig by hand as aid is delayed. With that, we conclude the world news. Moving on to development news. The Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira, says measures have been taken under the program to provide fuel to farmers during the 2022 yellow season to set up necessary facilities at 247 filling stations across the country. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Minister announced that its target is to cultivate all paddy fields in the country within the next Maha season. That came to you in Development News.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Taking a look at cricket, the first T20 Women's International encounter between Sri Lanka and India, which got underway in Dambulla this afternoon, was comfortably won by India by 34 runs short while ago. Earlier, India posted 138 for 6 in their allotted 20 overs after electing to bat first. In reply, Sri Lanka only managed 104 after losing 5 wickets in their 20 overs. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Cricket today announced that entry to the Sri Lanka-India 2020 and one-day international series will be free of charge. All 3 T20 games will be played at Dambulla, with the second T20 scheduled on 25th and the third on the 27th. The ODI series will be played at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium on the 1st, 4th and 7th of July. Moving on to rugby, St. Joseph's College scrums down against Kingswood College in season opener after a lapse of over 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka's Blue Ribbon Schools Rugby Tourney, the Dialogue Schools Rugby League, will kick off today as Division 1. St. Joseph's College, Colombo, will face off Kingswood College, Kandy in the season opener for the Division 1 Segment A tournament, which will be played at the Havelock Sports Club, Colombo. That was Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lankan Cares takes on the cause of airlifting internationally donated essential medicines and medical equipment to hospitals in Sri Lanka free of freight charges. The corporate social responsibility arm of Sri Lankan Airlines aims to provide timely relief to hospitals that are struggling to cope with the ongoing drug shortage and patients who depend on life-saving medicines in the country through the initiative. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
In economic news, recognizing the need to implement a comprehensive cross-border transactions and domestic foreign currency transactions monitoring system as a key national priority, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has implemented a new data collecting system known as the International Transactions Reporting System for the participation of licensed commercial banks and licensed specialized banks. The ITRS is a comprehensive data gathering system on cross-border transactions and domestic foreign currency transactions and is aimed at filling a multitude of existing data gaps. It will help policy formulation in many aspects of providing valuable inputs for both statistical and regulatory purposes. That was economic news. Moving on to the weather report. The Met Department forecast showers to occur at times in Ratnapura, Kalutara, Gaul and Mathura districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the northwestern province and in Gampaha, Colombo, Kandy, Nuwara and Kegaul districts. The Met Department predicts showers or thunder showers to occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the afternoon or night. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. India assures continued support to Sri Lanka. The COPE decides to hold a special meeting to look into the power generation, procurement, distribution and projects of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Negotiations to increase employment opportunities for Sri Lankans in Romania. The Minister of Tourism assures that Sri Lanka is safe for tourists to visit. The Indian court reduces sentence imposed on 2 accused of conspiring to carry out attacks in Sri Lanka by reviving LTTE. The DCS data reveals average household income makes shocking revelations about the poverty level. A 10-hour water cut in many areas of Colombo over the weekend. With that, we conclude the news.